Hello comic fans, here's Earl Grey, and there are my graphic novels and art books, undergrounds, whatever. Almost everything that doesn't belong anywhere else. But today we cover this shelf here, which consists almost exclusively of real graphic novels. So, from Anglo-America, this time a lot of Canadian stuff as well. So, stay tuned. But now, let's do a thumbnail first. Something. So, since this shelf has some kind of particular order, I will do it today a bit differently and put some stacks together. And out of the books here, these are books by Anders Nielsen, I will show you. And then we have lots of stuff by Simon Henzenman. You will see these as well. Then we have a bit of a small Glen Head section. Other stuff by Matt Lesniewski and whoever. Then a mysterious box right there with some Koyama Press books and Fantagraphics books. Then a pretty substantial Koyama Press and Drawn and Quarterly section right there. As you can see, lots of Michael DeForge books. I did a video about Michael DeForge, so I will go through DeForge's books rather quickly. Independent comic books / zines, Future Shock, more Koyama, bit of Conundrum Press, and other books of special interest for you. So here are the books from that shelf. Let's start with 3 wonderful books by Anders Nielsen. Each of them pretty different from the others. All of them are great. Big Questions. This is the German version from the Swiss Atrium Verlag. About these birds that really behave like birds, but are very philosophical ones on the other side. And they're a bit in these post-apocalyptic future. We don't actually know what happens in the world. We see the world from the perspective of these birds and these animals, like a snake. And yeah, it's a fantastic read. It's a thick book, but it will fly. You will fly through it, not because it's a good kind of page turner. Much more minimalistic is this one here. Poetry is Useless. Makes you think, what can you do with comics? What can you do with words? Pictures and words in combination. So this is a bit of a sketchbook of sorts. Maybe, call it a small-sized artist edition of some intellectual. And Anders Nielsen, I think of him as a very, in the best sense, intellectual cartoonist. And this one here, Dogs and Water, is about this guy in a post-apocalyptic setting with his together with his dog trying to survive. Here's a thick stack with books, all from Fantagraphics, all with material from the same cartoonist, Simon Henzenman. Seeds and Stems with early material by him. And books from that long-lasting series around this witch, Mag and her cat Mog. I mean, if you love one of these books or enjoy one of these books, Loving is maybe a bit too much, because real gross stuff happens throughout these stories here. But if you enjoy one of these, you probably enjoy all of them. At least this is the case for me. Megan Morgan Amsterdam. And a bit shift in size here. Bad Gateway. Very well made, oversized hardcover here. All these books by Fantagraphics are well made. And if this looks beautiful to you, sad obviously, but beautiful to you, check out Simon Henzenman. This is a softcover Crisis Zone, his collected webcomic about 2 years, almost 2 years of COVID. Next cartoonist covered on that shelf is Glenn Head. This is his most recent comic, Chartwell Manor, a memoir of his school days on that private school with this evil douchebag of an headmaster who molested his students. And stylistically it's very interesting how Glenn Head uses his underground-y, goofy style for a very serious and impactful tale. Here you have his output for which he was known until Chartwell Manor. This is this kind of more light-hearted, goofy nonsense that is highly enjoyable on a more easygoing level. But Chartwell Manor is really highly recommended if you can take this kind of stuff. Much more on the goofy side of things, like Guttersnipe is Mox Knox by Juan Cornella. Guess Fantagraphics, yeah. Nice made hardcover. Lots of visual, surreal toilet humor going on, and you can put this book here literally on your toilet or beside your toilet, because it will take you 2 or 3 sittings and then you will be through this book here. But pretty entertaining. Next cartoonist in line is one guy who really needs a good writer. Let's put them in chronological order. I guess this is his first breakthrough book, Matt Lesniewski, and this is The Freak. And here you have a bit of this, lots of Jeff Darrow vibes in this black and white book here, about this freak that comes to the city, kills a guy, and then has understandably some problems. Somehow this is already the story, but of course you can enjoy these pictures, these drawings a lot. But it's very thin on story, which is unfortunately true for the rest of his output as well. In Static we have some guy Frankensteining for some mad scientist in this future world here. I guess this is a trade collecting 4 issues, but story-wise this all could have happened in 1 issue, or at least when you think about these old EC comics, and this feels a bit like an EC story, EC comic story told new, but stretched over the run of 4 books. Highly recommended, nevertheless, just because of this fantastic goofy art here. I mean, if you're into this kind of thing, don't hold back. But don't expect too much of a story, even if the writer is Matt Kindt, like in Crimson Flower here, this 4-issue run about this lady on the revenge for her father. Yeah, I don't know. the story was really a bit of a disappointment. Maybe it's even due to this fantastic art, because the art is so distracting and takes so much room that there's maybe not enough space for the story to breathe in. But I digress. And now we come to this box here. And here are the comics within that box. Starting with them on the back here, I have 3 books by Sean Nero, who sent the stuff here to me. Fool's Wish is a samurai tale. He has this fantastic black and white style going on. I guess these are all self-published stuff, and showing again what really is possible if you have the drive and the skills to tell these tales. Burnman is a crime noir story with mythical elements and the visions and mysterious stuff happening, and the fight between fire and water in New York, and a lot of other stuff. And look at the art. I mean, that's really incredible. Then there's a stack of Duplex Planet illustrated by Fantagraphics. One David Greenberger worked in home to take care of the elderly people, and he wrote down all the stories that they told him. Here's Peter Begg, and we have another cover by Chris Ware, and many other heroes of the underground. They did comics about their whimsical and strange stories that all these old folks came up with, and they took them sort of serious and sort of not, which makes this series pretty entertaining, because we all more or less will end up like strange old dudes. Maybe I'm already there, I don't know. You decide. Ben Sears, Night Air. Ben Sears is a guy who tells almost comics for children, but I like them as well a lot. Very simple cartooning, very clear drawn adventures. This is Night Air, Volcano Trash, all published by Koyama Press. Yeah, now we're in my section with Koyama books. Blubby Boys is just whimsical, silly stuff that you enjoy or you don't enjoy. I did. Now to Michael DeForge. Not all of these books are by Koyama Press. This one is published by Drawn and Quarterly, Heaven No Hell. I did a video about his stuff, so let's go quickly through them here. Brad, this one is by Koyama Press. And then we have Ant Colony, landscape formatted book. Each of his books is a bit different, but still clearly a book by Michael DeForge, like only he does. These abstract, intellectual, intelligent comics that sometimes are more open spaces for your personal investigation of your very own psyche, maybe, than... Yeah, but coherent stories there are as well. They're very interesting and vessels for a lot of stuff. He is very casual, and then one of his loose anthologies, almost his 8-ball. This is loose number 7 and loose number 6, loose number 4. The very first ones are almost impossible to find for sane prices, at least. Koyama Press publishes a lot of other stuff that is highly experimental, sometimes a bit too experimental for me, like this book here, Winter's Cosmos. It's an interesting take, an interesting collage of photos and rough graphics that add up sort of to some sci-fi story, but sort of not, and not each page is really nice to look at or interesting. So yeah, don't know, interesting experiment, but not 100% my cup of tea. You and a Bike and a Road by Elena Davis, who has contributed a lot to recent anthologies in the last couple of years. There's one here, has a beautiful cover. This is a memoir or a diary of a journey that she took with her bike and from Texas to Georgia. Very minimalistic in parts, pretty charming in parts, sometimes a bit maybe too detailed when she tells about all the stuff that happened to her during her ride. But it's pretty interesting. She rode her bike on the American side of the American-Mexican border, so a lot of stuff happened during that journey. Gorgeous, by Kathy G. Johnson. This is by Koyama Press as well. This is a nice cover, I feel. Short story about the encounter of these two young punks with that lady there. It's a car accident, and somehow it turns out to be life-changing, at least for that lady. Condo Heartbreak Disco by Eric Kostyuk Williams. Interesting black and white, very stylish story about gentrification and these two changeling superhero ladies who fight the evil corporation that wants to gentrify Toronto. So another comic that takes place in Canada. No wonder, because Koyama is a Canadian outfit. Also published by Koyama is Jessica Campbell's XTC 69. Pretty interesting title, pretty uninteresting story with a pretty stupid message in the end. The war of the sexes can only be ended when all the males are killed or something. Don't know. Kafkaesque by Peter Cooper was not that good as I wanted it to be. Still, it's a decent collection of adaptations of Kafka stories in his very unique style. Then I have a stack of Future Shock anthologies who contain stuff by William Cardini and for the most part by Josh Burggraf and others like Victor Carlo and some others. Very colorful, highly recommended original stories, a bit in the vein of these Boing Being anthologies by that Finnish guy whose name escapes me right now. Astro Psych Out Psycho Comics. I feel this is a pretty apt description for these here. So, then back to Koyama Press and one Aidan Koch to a collection that is titled After Nothing Comes. a collection of her selected zines, illustrated poems or comics as poems, poems as comics, however you want to put it. Very atmospheric. I really dig it. Highly recommend it if you're into these artsy-fartsy stuff. Little thingies here. And then to a book that I've shown you in more detail in an earlier video, and Sidred did a video about this book here as well. Mr. Morgan by Igor Hofbauer. It's published by Conundrum Press. Fantastic book. Very stylish, very a lot of stuff to chew on and to read and reread and experience and discover for yourself. Underground's darling, CF, I'm not always sure if his stuff is really that great as everybody wants you to think that it's great, but yeah, I really like his comics nevertheless. This here is a bit like, let's say, Michael Fife's Copra for the Poor. If this sounds mean, I don't want to be mean, I really want just to describe it. This is fun, believe me. Fun little book. Vortex, like by William Cardini, is a bit the same, but even more on the abstract side of things, like you can see here. So, if Michael Fife is not abstract enough for you, and not simple, not bold enough for you, you will get a lot out of William Cardini and Vortex. Jessica Farm by Josh Simmons is a pretty interesting project. He draws each month just one page of this story here. So this will be a lifelong project. He has figured out already how long he will maybe or probably live. Hopefully a long time, especially when he does more of these crazed out fantastic Batman mock-ups or spoofs. Nick Bertozzi, Shackleton, a biography about his Antarctic Odyssey. So, of high educational value as well. Then I have lots of stuff that I recently showed you in my video about Domino books, and in particular about Austen English, Meskin and Umezzo, Gola Casual, and Christine and Charles. White Cube by Brecht van den Brugge details the adventures of these two guys in the world of modern art. Did a video long time ago. Finally, we have two books to go. The Ghosts We Know by Sean Caremaker, published by another fine Canadian outfit, Conundrum Press, is a very charming, atmospheric presentation of short stories that blend into each other. Caremaker uses the pages or the panels in a very interesting ways. The first story is actually just one panel that goes over many pages, ends in a pretty ambiguous way, and then we have some sort of diary story about his job as an artist, as a teacher for drawing. But then we have more surreal stuff, dreamlike stories. Really nice book. Highly recommend it. More or less same with Moving Pictures by The Imminence. About this lady here who has to work with some German, but has a relationship with him as well. She wants to protect paintings that were hidden from the Nazis. So there's a lot of interesting to and fro between these two and some others. If you can deal with these comics who are very dialogue heavy, then this book is maybe something for you as well. So, more than enough for today, I guess. Lots of books with graphic novels and other stuff to go just to finish that shelf behind me. Thanks for listening and watching. Goodbye.